Welcome back to Captain of Industry, where in our last episode we did our first endgame mega project. This over here, which is not fully built. You can see obviously some of them are blueprinting and not built because I don't need them yet, because this whole thing is going to be enough for 40,000 people and we're only at 8,000. So I definitely don't need, all of it built, but we have definitely built quite a bit already, and we have, big train there with 2 lines of trains. You can see there's a new one there, by the way. But yeah, the train's going all the way back to our city. Now I've continued working on some new mega project, like over here, for example, and a lot there that's completely new. But before we talk about this, more importantly, we need to start moving into the tech tree. We have over here done quite a bit already in the end game part of the tech tree, but there is still a few. And many of these, in particular the fast breeder reactor, which is the end game kind of nuclear reactor. So if possible, I'll want to get there as quickly as possible. We need for this to do a couple of things. We need a lab tier 4. We have that. We need a bit of MOX spent fuel. I've actually started this in this episode. I'll show it to you in a second. But we also need some space research points. And that we definitely don't have. We can't even get it because the space research points are over here in the orbital station tier 2 or orbital research, which requires many production we haven't done, but even requires a few research we haven't done, like the crew station. And why haven't we done the crew station? Because it's locked under getting the space station tier 1. So yes, this is basically this part over here that we sort of skipped, right? We went all the way here, we did also at the bottom there, but we skipped this piece here. So I'm going to show you now how to do this. It starts with aluminum, but it's gonna get pretty complex quickly. And then, as you can see over here, we're gonna need the crew and much more, including titanium. So there is 2 completely new kind of smelting here. We have the aluminum smelting and the titanium smelting. So I've started the first one over here quickly. This is quick and dirty, right? This is not the end game, at scale production, but it's to show you how it works. First of all, we're getting some of these bauxite here. So if we take out all of these, so you can see, right, this is bauxite there. There's also a bit of bauxite over here. And I think there was some more on this side. I don't remember where exactly. Oh no, oh yeah, all the way at the end. So this is the bauxite island, but obviously way easier for us to go here. So this is what we're using, right? This bauxite mine. You can of course also get it on the world map, right? There is actually multiple. I think one is here and there's another. You can do contracts, right? So there's a lot that can be done. And so give me a second. I see, oh, this is my coal mine. Well, there's still some coal there. If we put back the coal, yeah, you can see there's still some, and there's still some in the ground, and we have other coal mines, so not worried. But anyway, let's go back to this. So here it is. We're getting some bauxite, right? Remember to filter it into your ore sorting plant, because definitely there's going to be other things over here. Now we're going to need to crush it. Right. And by the way, what I'm going to show you, there's basically only one way. You can see here, there's only one way to transform your bauxite into crush. There's only one thing you can do with the powder, etc. So it's a pretty simple in that sense that you don't really have many choices, but it is pretty complex, as you can see with the few buildings that are here. So we're crushing it into a powder. Then we're going to take this powder and add some brine. There's not that many uses for brine apart from in the past making a bit of chlorine and salt. So it's good to get a new one now over here, right? For the bauxite. How do you make brine? Remember, you can make it easily with a thermal desalinator, meaning you're gonna need some seawater. Actually bringing it from over here. It's not that far. And again, this is quick and dirty, but it will suffice for now. So we're taking this seawater, and we're going to add a bit of steam high, which for simplicity's sake, I just put a boiler electric over here, which requires just water, and we're creating water inside here, right? So I just had to, this was the kickstart, right? After this, you could say it's not really needed anymore. So let's pause it now. But yeah, here it is. So we have the water production and brine. Water is gonna be used for the boiler, and brine is gonna go over here. Then we are creating, hydrated alumina, and we're creating red mud. This is another new one. It is, I know it looks like the toxic slurry and all of this, but actually you don't really need to put it into, one of these, how is that called? You don't need to put it into wastewater treatment. Instead, this one, you're just going to put into a settling tank with two recipes actually over here. The one at the bottom is the more advanced one, I guess, because you're gonna, instead of, let's say, waste this red mud, you're gonna use it to create a bit of iron crushed, but it is super small iron. We're talking about 4, and it required then acid and limestone. So I didn't go for that one for this. Maybe for the final production we'll go with it, but for this one I just went with the one above, which takes again a bit more seawater. So we already had that, right? We're already bringing seawater, so that was easy. This is what I'm doing over here. By the way, this is 18, so for each of these chemical plants tier 2 you're gonna need 2, because this is 36, and it just creates a bit of slag that we can drop anywhere, right, with just a bit of limestone. So that is kind of taking care of, the byproduct. But now we're creating some hydrated alumina, which there's only really one thing you can do, is put it into a rotary kiln. You can use 2 different recipes, either fuel gas or hydrogen. The fuel gas one will pollute a bit, creating a bit of carbon dioxide, while the the hydrogen one will not pollute, it will create steam depleted. And it's the same ratio, right? 36 and 6 to make 24. So that's what we're doing over here with some hydrogen that comes from the water. And we're creating a lot of water over here, so let's just use this water to create a bit of oxygen and hydrogen. The oxygen is sent to the atmosphere, not polluting anything, and the hydrogen is sent to do it. And with this, as I said, we're creating some alumina. Then this alumina, there's pretty much only one thing you can do with it. For the aluminium, we will be able to also use it in the future for another recipe. You can see the sapphire wafer, that's definitely new. But yeah, in our case, we need to put it into an aluminum cell, pretty big building, love it. That's going to create the molten aluminium with just a bit of graphite on top. So we have the graphite coming over here. You could, of course, create it directly on site with some CO2 if you have a CO2 production. And by the way, that does create a bit of CO2, but not that much, right? Because look at this, you need 6 graphite and you're making only 18 carbon dioxide. Now, if you look at the carbon dioxide to graphite, to make 6, you need 144. So this is definitely not enough to be sustainable, let's say. Okay, but yeah, we're creating this molten aluminium over here, which you, again, really have only one way in terms of aluminium. It's gonna be the metal caster. It's gonna take this 24 and make 24. So the good thing too is basically this is 1 to 1 to 1 to 1, and so it's an easy line. And yeah, this is going to start creating some aluminium, which then we can use in quite a few things. But obviously for those things here, right, we're probably going to just now transport this aluminium back to the base, because over here, right, all of this was connected, so it's fine. Now to be able to use this aluminium and make new things, we're gonna need, the steel, the plastic, and those type of things, which are already at the base, right? So we're gonna go back to the base. But before we go back to the base, I have put another small production over here. This is the poppy seeds. So you do need to find them on the map. I have now killed all of the parrots on the map, so you can see there's no more parrots. We've unlocked everything. I didn't repair all of the mines because the goal is not really to use those mines, it's to use more contracts at the end. But we have found everything. And so with this, right, I was able to do the medical research tier 3 over here that requires those poppy seeds that you find on the map. But with that, right, we have a whole new chain of production. So yeah, making some poppy seeds over here and adding a bit of glass and acid, as you can see, right, to make those more thin. So that is gonna be important, obviously, for medical tier 3. Right? So this is the production, and again, in the future, we will make it end game all integrated, but for now this was a quick and dirty way to show you how it works. So yeah, we're taking the poppy seed, glass and acid, and we're getting this morphine. Then we're gonna send this morphine next to the rest of the productions over here. Right, so here it is, we're sending it there, this morphine. It will go into this assembly where we're taking 24 of this is what we're producing, 24 anesthetic, and 48 medical supply tier 2. So these ones we were already making over here, right? And this was actually already 48, so that's perfect. We just need therefore 24 of these, which we're making just next door there. This is this one here. 24, as you can see, taking 6 ammonia, 12 hydrogen fluoride, and 3 steel. We were already bringing the steel there, so I just had to send it this way. Then the ammonia is just using hydrogen and nitrogen. Nitrogen comes from the air separator. The hydrogen comes from water somewhere. Where is it? We can follow the pipe, I guess. Oh, here, sorry, very close. So yeah, we're creating the hydrogen over here with just a bit of water. It does consume quite a bit of electricity, but at least it's very easy, compact. And then lastly, for the hydrogen fluoride, it takes rocks and acid, and it makes the hydrogen fluoride and a bit of slag. So that's why we have the slag over here. And yeah, that creates, you know, this anesthetic. And now we have over here the medical supply level 3 or tier 3. And 48 of these. I think we're still below 48 right now, but we're probably getting close now that we're at 8,000 people. Yeah, we're at 40. The demand is 40 right now. But I remember that it's better to give the higher tier because it gives you more unity, it gives you more health, and it reduces the mortality even more than the others, right? So yeah, we've done also over here the medical supply. So now it's time to bring the aluminium over here and start adding it right to this whole maze there, or maybe we'll add it over here. This is not, remember, the final end game kind of thing. That is not big enough. This is also a big mess. I did actually start over here the final one. You can see it is mostly paused. All of the things are mostly paused, but I'm slowly but surely adding to it because it's also a lot of construction parts to be able to make this, but it's gonna be a lot more organized. Look at this, how clean it is over here. So now that we're making aluminium, let's start using it. And as you can see, there are 4 recipes using aluminium. Only have 3 that are unlocked right now. Fourth one will be a bit later, and we are definitely going to start with the first 2. The third one will be critical sure later on. This is consumer electronics. This is the third and final kind of good that our people want, right? We started with the household goods, then the household appliances, and then the consumer electronics. That's the third one, right? We actually have it over here. Let me show you consumer electronics. Put it there, right? So this is this building over here, Mafisonic. So that's gonna help us in particular, you know, not just to give a boost of unity, but also to boost, you know, the overall bonuses that we're getting, right? From 100% to 125%. So that's a great one. But yes, for now, let's start actually with the other 2 recipes. Yeah? We have those other 2 recipes to create composite panel and the chemical fuel. This is all new stuff from update 3. And so as always, also with kind of creating a new production like this, I haven't made it perfectly efficient or anything right now. We're just creating it so that we get started with it, right? And in the future, we'll make a perfect layout for it. So this is what's happening over here. The first one, the composite panel, we're gonna need a bit of aluminium, actually quite a bit, 32, 4 steel and 8 plastic to make 32 composite panels. So at least the output is also pretty big, right? This is what you see over here, right? Plastic, then steel, and then aluminium. Now this, we're going to store into this unit storage, but we're also going to then use, right? So it continues going forward. We have then next to it, the steel plus poly plus glass. We actually unlocked that recipe a long time ago. This is to make solar cells. So you could actually use it if you want to make solar panels over here, right? This costs 10, each solar panel does cost 10 of these construction parts tier 4 and 120 of those solar cells. So it is pretty big in terms of production, but then it gives you free electricity, right? As long as there's sun, by the way. So if it's raining, your production of electricity will decrease. So this is not that great, but we do need some right now for the next production on that side actually. But before we talk about that one, let's see the next production in the line, which is the composite core basics. This is going to use the composite panel I just mentioned, plus a bit more of steel, and that's, the same belt over here, plus a bit of electronics level 2, which comes from there. And this is what you see on the side there, right? I have my unit storage for composite, my unit storage for solar panels, and unit storage here for the composite core basics. Then if we go to the other side, right, we're going to want to make over here some station parts. This is again completely new stuff, but yeah, the station parts, that's gonna take the composite basics we just mentioned here, the solar panel also we just made there, and another new thing, the chemical fuel. This chemical fuel is gonna be made into this chemical plant, right, where we need a bit more of aluminium, that's the second aluminum production, some fuel gas and some ammonia. As always, the ammonia, we can create it on site. The fuel gas, I'm just bringing from, anywhere else. We're making fuel gas with diesel, and we're making fuel gas also a lot in my farms over there, all right? So that's what we're bringing here on this side, and water for the ammonia. And yeah, with this, we're gonna create this chemical fuel that will then go into here to create station parts basics. So why am I making all of this over here linked to this building? Well, because this building is the rocket assembly depot. And if you check over here, the rocket tier 1, this will take those things. It will take the composite part. It will also take some steel and some electronics level 2. So everything that we have here on site, right? It's going directly into those 3 belts here. It does cost 1,200 of the purple, the tier 4 construction parts, and 160 of the vehicle parts tier 3. So we are a bit low on construction part now, so I'm gonna wait 1 minute and then we should be able to do it. But yeah, with this we're gonna be able to start creating our first rockets, and then those rockets are then gonna be sent over here into the rocket launch pad, right? Which is also using 300 of those construction parts tier 4, 1,000 of the concrete slab, and 800 of the steel. We're going to have, also things over here like electronics tier 4 and station parts that we can send with those rockets. And we're gonna need, some fuel, some water and some fuel. So let's wait a bit for this, but yeah, that's gonna come just now. While we're waiting, I did forget to mention something over here. We have switched my old diesel factory over here, transforming crude oil into diesel and a couple other things. We've switched it completely from the coal, right? We used to have coal over here brought by ships, right? And that was coming there. This was also our old electricity plant, right? So we switched it off. Now I switched it first to electronics. First I replaced, all of those coal boilers by electronics boilers. And then I realized this was a lot of electricity because a boiler like this is 4.5 megawatts, but as soon as you use this recipe, it's actually time 2. So that's 9 megawatts for just one of these, right? Making 24 of steam. And we need quite a bit of steam, right? Each of those buildings here is using steam, and we have a few others also using steam. So very quickly, I was like, wait, I'm reaching the maximum of my production of electricity already. And we had, and we still have, sorry, 2 of these reactors over there at full speed, right? So I was like, no, that's not good. And at the same time, I also, remembered that for the fast breeder reactor here, we needed some MOX spent fuel, but I wasn't actually making MOX yet, right? So I decided to start making some MOX. This is what you can see over here. These 4 chemical plants, we can also put them here as no ships, no trucks. But yeah, these 4 over here, they're gonna take a bit of depleted uranium, which we have done, right? We used to have a mountain there. I've taken it out, put it into a few of these loose storage, but also into a few of these here. As you can see, this is actually quite a lot, right? We have a lot of depleted uranium, so not a problem to use it, right? To use some. And then we're using also a bit of plutonium, which again, we had quite a bit. Actually, I did build a second plutonium waste storage before starting to use it. Now we're fine. This one is empty and this one is halfway through it. But yeah, a couple of years ago, actually, this one was full, you know. But now we're using all of those plutonium to create some MOX rod, which we are storing into this unit storage there, but which we have also started to use into this small, this small nuclear reactor here. I say small because we don't have, you know, this whole thing here of creating all of the, you know, enriched uraniums and things like this. We're just transporting this MOX rod with the truck from here to there from time to time, right, when needed. It's not needed that often. And then we're going to use it into this nuclear reactor, which I just realized, this is the first time I'm seeing this, is actually pretty high. Why? Oh, I know why. Look at this. The steam is going there and then it's stuck here because this one is on the wrong side. That was bad. That was bad, but at least it didn't explode because we had, you know, enough water to do the cooling. But we had basically been doing cooling, I guess, for many years now. So I can go back to the full speed. But the cool thing over here, you know, this is not just about creating a bit of spent MOX, which, by the way, I guess we're already almost full. So we're gonna need to create another one, maybe in the back there. Let's go. Yeah, done. So this was not just about creating spent MOX, this was also about starting to use some of my depleted uranium, like I mentioned, and getting a bit more electricity, plus, more importantly, having a way to send steam to this factory, instead of using, again, the coal, or instead of using those electric boilers, which are great in terms of input, they just take water, but are terrible instead in terms of production of electricity, or consumption of electricity, if you wish. Now we can use this guy, right? I have this pipe balancer there that says first send the steam on this pipe all the way there to the factory, right? To use it to make water, to use it to make my distillation, etc. So that way we don't need any steam production on site. We're using this one. And then what I'm saying is, if you have more steam, because obviously this is using some, but actually not 384 per minute, right? If you have more steam, then you can send it and make electricity with it. And I've actually made this my electricity number 1, which means that my nuclear reactors over here actually have slowed down even more than before. You know, I'm producing even less here than I used to. But this one is producing at full speed, which is also why, you know, we have quite a bit of spent MOX over here. So yeah, this is, you know, a great way to use your MOX, or to use more of the radioactive material, because this is not radioactive. The rods are not radioactive. So it's easy to move the rods somewhere across the map and to have, you know, to use it for your steam production. And here it is, ladies and gents, a couple of minutes later, and you can see we have built both the rocket assembly depot and the rocket launch pad, and I've even built 2 rockets. Now you just click over here. This is right now the tier 1. The future, I'm sure we're gonna have a lot more. This is costing, right, as I said before, the composite panel, steel, and the electronics too. All of these are coming directly through those belts. The only thing is, for the composite panels right now, we're not producing that many. But this is, you know, working, and we're creating those rockets over here, which, by the way, you can move. You can actually move them if you want. Otherwise, they will just go straight. Let me show you this. You will see there is, right, the output there. We can see it. And similarly, for this guy, you can see the input in the front, right? We do need a couple of things for this to work. We're gonna need some water to reduce the sound. We're gonna need some fuel. It's hydrogen and oxygen. So what we're doing over here is we have this electrolyzer, just taking a bit of water and creating oxygen and hydrogen. So that's easy. And then if we want, we can also add some deliveries, either crew or cargo. Right now, we only have access to those two things, the station parts basics and the electronics tier 4. For the station, in the future, there will be more. Right? You can see, for example, that this tier 1 rocket requires 140 of hydrogen, 40 of oxygen, and we will be able to send either 4 crew or 40 of deliveries. So we're gonna send some station parts, right? And we're going to not click on auto launch when ready, because we're gonna want to do it together and see this beautiful rocket going into space and unlocking for us the next stage in the game for sure. Now the new step you need to go is click over here on the space station. Next to your map, we have the space station. I'd love to have, by the way, a key for this. But yeah, we're gonna be able to click on deploy the space station. And here, to be able to really get, a space station working, we're gonna need 80 of these station part basics, right? So we need to launch it. And as you saw over here, obviously we have now 40. So we're gonna create auto launch, and it is 2, 1, go. And here is our first rocket. In our first let's play, this was the end of the let's play. For this one, there's definitely so much more that's left to do. I on purpose made it a bit far from our city. Still a big thanks to the developers of this amazing game. But again, this is not the end. Right now we have another rocket going to space. Let's look at it for a second. We can't unfortunately follow it more, but yeah, congratulations, we finished this, but this is not actually the end, right? If we go now back here, we'll see that a rocket is on its way to the orbit, and it is, we have now delivered 40 out of 80. The good thing is we have another rocket already ready. You can see it's coming. This one is not there yet, right? We need a bit more composite panel, but it's coming slowly but surely, right? So let's give it a second for it to be ready. We're gonna need also some fuel and everything, right? Some parts. Look at this animation. We have even the pad that's being retracted, the tower. We don't have yet tons of people, moving around, but it is a pretty cool animation, and it is, we can see we have the fuel is there. Alright, so let's launch again. 4, 3, 2, this guy is gonna die. Sorry. And it is launching. Wow, love it. This is pretty cool, huh? And it is, now we have station tier 1, right? Which is going to produce a bit of Unity, really not that much to be honest, only 15 or 0.15, just not a lot, but it does provide a 10% bonus for research, and this is just the beginning, right? In the future, we're gonna be able to upgrade it over here. So you can see it does cost maintenance though, right? So the station requires ongoing maintenance, which makes sense, right? If maintenance level drop below the marker, the station will downgrade to sustain itself. However, if the station is at its initial first tier and maintenance reaches 0, it will be lost entirely, burning up in the atmosphere. So obviously we don't want to get there, which means from time to time we're gonna need to send some station parts back up, right, to make sure that it sort of stays at 100% or close to it. But the good thing is, again, we're gonna want to go forward, and in particular we have now unlocked the crew station. So with this one I can add to the queue, obviously, right, to do this research, and with this that's going to unlock the space crew, which will require some crew supply, which as you can see is a pretty interesting element because it will take some medical supply but also some food packs and a bit of plastic, I guess, to put it in a box. So yeah, we're gonna want to do this, right, to move forward, because remember our goal is actually to get all the way here so that we can unlock the fast breeder reactor. But I think, ladies and gents, right, this is a good end to this episode where we have a completely new production, right? The aluminium over here using some bauxite that we get right now from the ground. we are transforming this bauxite into aluminium at the end of this chain, which is not the most complex, but definitely not the easiest either. And then we've started to use this aluminium into this new small base over here to create some rockets, but also to send those rockets to space with some space parts. Now, as I said during the episode, this is not optimized at all. This is also not really producing enough, you know, because this is using 32 and this is just making 32. And actually that means 32 aluminium. And I don't even think we're making 32 aluminium. I think we're making 24, if I'm not mistaken. No, not this one here. Yes, we're making 24 right now. So we need to improve this. We have also started our medical tier 3, the final level of medical, with the poppy seeds that are growing over here to make some morphine, and then the expansion of the production here of medical, right? We're going to take medical tier 2, this morphine, as well as anesthetics to make the medical supply tier 3, and then give them to my people over here into this one, right? This clinic. Oh, there's a flu right now, by the way. And you can see, right, this is giving me 15 of health penalty, but with my medical supply, I'm getting 25. This is also reducing, you know, my population by 0.2, but with the medical supply, I have kind of a 1.4 bonus. So definitely great there. We don't have a problem. I also mentioned, right, that we're using now a second nuclear reactor over here for MOX. So this is this one over here, right? The MOX rods and spent MOX instead of the normal uranium rod and spent fuel, which by the way will also help us in the future to do this over here. We're gonna be able to use this spent MOX to create some blanket fuel. So that has been helpful, you know, to reduce my coal production, but also to increase, I guess, my electricity, not use electricity with those boilers over here. So, you know, my production of electricity, actually, if we look over here, consumption, sorry, I meant, I didn't want to look at this, sorry, overview. So if we look at this, you will actually see that my production and consumption, right, they have been increasing obviously forever, but they were actually a lot higher at some point than right now. If you look at the last 100 years, maybe not so much, but if you look at the max, this used to be a lot higher. This was before we switched to the new one. But yeah, definitely a big increase. And if you haven't seen, there is more and more of these graphs over here. In particular, I did like a lot this consumption graph over here that shows me, you know, which are the buildings that are consuming a lot of electricity. In this case, right now, for example, for me, it's a lot of the enrichment of uranium and the electrolyzer, in particular, the one that are making hydrogen, right? They consume a lot of electricity. But I don't have that many electric boilers anymore. I used to have way more than this. The thermal desalinators too, of course, they all consume. You can see this aluminum cell, this is 8 for just one of these. So that's pretty crazy. And you can also look at it like this, right? So actually, let me show you quickly the electric boilers. If we go here and we go to max, you can see that at some point over here, I was using a huge amount of electric boilers. Now we're back to a pretty low one. So yeah, this is a lot of great quality of life. And is this still not ready? No. So I really need to increase this. If we're gonna want, you know, to send regularly some rockets to the station, we need to make sure we can actually build those rockets quickly enough to send them to the station. So don't try to over expand there. And that's why in the next episode, I think what we may actually focus on is this new piece over here, which is my end game, you know, production. I hope you're excited and I hope to see you next time.